Welcome back, dear listeners, to the next episode of Grimlore, the lore podcast for all your Warhammer Fantasy and Age of Sigmar needs. Hello, everyone. This is your dwarven host, Gerald, once again, having evaded the guards that interrogated us with Astro from last episode. And where is Ray? Oh, I see. Okay, here he is. Here he is coming up to the desk. Hey, how you doing, Rayway?
I'm good. I actually got arrested for having warp stone in my neck, but
Shit,
luckily,
so that's
while I
what
was being
happened to you.
transported, while I was being transported, though, the warp stone fragments kind of fell out. So while I was being talked to in court, I actually got acquitted. It doesn't hurt that I'm an elf and I can just pay everyone because I'm super rich.
Here we go with the. Anyways, well, while you were being hauled off, I was trying to smuggle Astro away from the authorities, and you're probably wondering why this big surly knight is here, staring daggers at me right now. Well, it just so happens that was the same knight we ran into last time. And he found me. So in exchange for my head not being axed off, I agreed to take him back here so he can be entertained with your stories and some free ale. So welcome everyone to our next guest tonight, the Honorable Knight Sir Flubb de Montfort.
Yay.
Welcome, Flubb. Welcome.
Yeah, I've killed a lot of orcs.
I mean, that's always good. If everyone could just, put down their weapons, put their arms together, and just lead a good old campaign of genocide against the orcs, I think we'd all be friends.
Well, you had me at genocide.
Okay, Ray, better get on with the story before he gets a little sword happy.
I mean,
hey, bartender, get him another pint. Make that 5.
Make sure he's too hammered to do anything, especially with his horse.
Hey, that's a hurtful stereotype.
But not incorrect.
That's why it's hurtful.
The only reason stereotypes hurt is because they're true.
Oh my. What do I know? All you humans look the same to me anyway, so.
Wait. I feel like that's even more racist.
I'm here for it. I'm loving it.
I mean, this episode will involve some level of racism, so I mean...
Oh, okay, we're gonna dive... We're really diving.
I see now why... Yeah, you called the right guy.
Well, I don't know, because I don't think Flubb's gonna appreciate the racial stereotyping against one particular faction that I'm gonna be discussing eventually.
Oh?
They're involved. Flubb's little favorite faction is involved.
Oh, we're talking about them?
What?
Those guys.
Eventually. But I thought before we should start, I would actually like you, my friend Gerald, to give me a quick 1-minute recap of our last episode. Just so give our honorable knight Sir Flubb a taste of what to expect, what we just discussed. And to make sure that you weren't, knee deep in alcohol, too hammered to remember anything.
Yeah, Astro stole enough of it, so I didn't get in too deep that last time.
Previously on Grimlore,
we discussed the birth and very strange circumstances around one Sigmar Heldenhammer, who would eventually grow up to be the founding member and emperor of the Empire of Man. We would learn that he was a surly little brat that broke his best friend's arm, and so as punishment, he got punted into a cave full of dead people. He climbs his way out, talking to his ancestors in the process, and then he sees all and stares down at everything like that duck gif, and he goes,
pathetic.
15 seconds.
So he gathers up a bunch of troops, unites all these clans to bring them all together, fights a bunch of chaos worshipping Norsemen, and makes allies with Kurgan Ironbeard, where he is giving the hammer, the Warhammer. He helps the Kurgan Ironbeard fight a bunch of orcs. He fights a Black Dwarf because apparently... and he becomes the Warhammer Fantasy.
What?
You Sigmar are in fact the Warhammer Fantasy.
No, it was the friends we made along the way. Oh wait, they're dead.
I mean, yeah. Now, on top of wanting to, keep you on your toes and make sure that you were paying attention, as well as to give the brave Sir Flubb a good recap. Another reason is because this episode is going to be a continuation of Sigmar and the Empire in particular's story.
Oh yeah. Part 2, baby. Here we go.
Yes, because if there's anything I love more in elves, it's motherfucking Sigmar, because he is more man than anyone has ever been.
He's a man's man.
That's a right proper man's man there. Everyone else was honorary man around that man.
So what does
In
that
fact,
make sense
I
when
dare-
he was honorary man?
I know, right? I dare say Sigmar prays to Ulrich with a leather-bound camo Bible. Whew. Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee super late at night, so I'm a little hyper now.
Oh dear.
What's this guy's name?
Sigmar.
Not him. Who are we talking about?
Sigmar, the guy who founded the Empire, who was really awesome.
Oh, thought you had a different name and he got Sigmar's hammer.
Well, his name was Sigmar Umberogen, but then he became Sigmar Heldenhammer because, he got a hammer that he held in his hand.
I get it now.
Super
Who's
original.
Ulrich then?
Ulrich is a god of basically the humans had a bunch of gods before in ancient times, and what happened is that even Sigmar prayed to Ulrich. But what happened is that when Sigmar basically went senile and just fucking disappeared into the wastes, he basically mantled Ulrich's position and basically took Ulrich's position as the chief god. If you want a very quick example, Ulrich is basically like Odin.
Oh, dude just straight up ganked his throne there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I don't want to say ganked his throne. It was very much more like, here you
Well,
go,
he left
Sigmar,
it.
take my crown.
Yeah.
And Sigmar's like, you motherfucking right, I'm taking your fucking crown.
Ah,
He
the
was
great
like, hey, I'm gonna
Sigmar, the
go
great
get
Warhammer
some.
fantasy. I bequeath to you.
Imagine Sigmar is holding, mugging Ulrich, just give me your fucking crown, old man.
Hey, I wouldn't put it past him.
Let's not forget Sigmar is 80 years old at this point.
He was just a dude that became so much of a dude that he became a god.
Literally,
Yeah.
yes.
Exactly.
Because this is Warhammer Fantasy, baby.
It's very much that. It was literally, he was such a amazing guy, and killed so many orcs and bullshit, and got so much praise that he literally ascended to godhood.
I have a new goal then.
Yeah, on his 80th birthday. So imagine you're 80 years old, you wake up in bed, you're fucking old senile man, you're just all right, guys, see ya. And you just fucking walk into the fucking wilderness, and then you just fucking become a god.
No, I'm not living to 80.
How long are you living to, Sir Knight?
Probably not to 80. That's all I know. It makes it 50.
Oh my god. I mean, the way I see it, you're never too young to have a midlife crisis, because you never know when you're gonna die.
Because every part of your life can be a crisis.
Yeah, I'm in one giant crisis.
Your entire life is a crisis.
But speaking of crises, we're gonna actually be talking about the Empire after Sigmar basically abandoned it.
Peace out. A-Town down.
Hey guys, I'm the new god, but I'm out of here.
Hey, I'm gonna be a god now, and they need me up in heaven. So, peace out, sucking nerds.
He sees who he has become the god of, and he just goes,
Pathetic.
peace.
So, for reference, the Empire has been around for around 50 years at this point. It's officially formed. It's been around for around 50 years. Sigmar has been the emperor for all those 50 years, and it was basically built up from literally Bronze Age barbarians. Literally, imagine Bronze Age barbarians, and over the course of 60 to 70 years, they go from Bronze Age barbarians and cavemen to Steel Age medieval kings.
That's a pretty quick time frame there.
Well, I mean, they got help from the dwarves. The dwarves unlocked all their technology early, and they're
Because we know how to. Because unlike some people, we know how to build shit.
The
Exactly.
Empire fiefdoms like Britannia is that are all kind of just united.
Pretty much, yeah. It's less of a actual empire, and it's closer to like if the best real world example would be like the United States of America, where every state is technically independent, but they're so intertwined and so interconnected through trade and like bureaucracy that they are a singular like nation.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's like dukes.
Yeah. There's dukes, there's there's duchies, there's lords, there's peasants. Like if you actually look at it, there are like several different like tiers of like status. It isn't just like upper class, middle class, lower class. There are those, but like even in those classes, there's like subclasses between them, which I really like. Like you could be a lord, but then you're subservient to I think it's a duke is above a lord. I don't fully know the concept of like fiefdoms and like feudal organizations.
Well, then the dukes would be loyal to somebody, an emperor, I guess, if it's an empire.
No, the dukes, I know basically every single the 11 tribes, whatever that forms the empire, those basically became provinces. So, and every province is led by a count, and then the counts are are basically like they'd be considered like your what's the equivalent of like a provincial leader for you guys, but they're in charge of those provinces.
You talking about for the U.S. Governor?
Yeah.
A governor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Governor?
yeah, that's basically what they'd be. They each count would be like a state governor.
And just for reference,
And-
I happened to have found a picture of the Empire that is better than just 4 pixels wide. So if you'll direct
Ooh.
your gaze to the art and pictures section, we might actually have a look at what's going on here.
How dare you? I also have pictures of the empire,
Oh my!
and mine's better.
Oh my God, I can zoom in.
Wait a second, I had a second picture, but I can't find it.
Quickly, so
Your
nice.
picture will
Be the tiebreaker. Whose picture is better?
Where's Noln at? That's where Skaven Slayer. Oh, there it is. Nice.
No one's also in charge of making all the like siege weapons and bullshit. Like if you want cannons and like literal tanks.
Yeah, that was in. You haven't read Skaven Slayer yet, have you?
I haven't. I just finished Troll Slayer, and I want to start Skaven Slayer. It's literally like I'm like hovering over it, but I don't want to like buy it yet because we actually have to do the book club. We're gonna get to it soon, eventually. Sorry.
Yes, quick announcement. Book club will be happening. You have until the end of this month to read Troll Slayer.
For
Aha.
reference, this month is September.
Yes, because it's going to be a while before this episode comes out.
But regardless, yes, each of the provinces are basically ruled by a count, and Sigma are basically ruled from Reichland, which is, if you use my picture, it's like the red province or near it's like right above Batonia, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And basically Sigmar left. Like he abdicated the throne. He's on his 80th birthday, he just left and said that he was no longer going to be the emperor. He was going to leave, which was probably the dumbest decision an emperor could make, because Sigmar one did not leave a will. Like he did not leave anyone to inherit. He did not have any heirs, despite he fucked one of the counts in order to get her cavalry army. But that's besides the point.
You fucked a count or a countess? Hold on.
A countess, but she wasn't a countess.
Okay.
She was like she was like a queen or some shit. She was, I don't know, the names of like the leaders of the pre-empire like areas are weird, because sometimes they're called kings, sometimes they're called chieftains, sometimes they're called like they have like a bunch of different like timeline names, despite the fact that they're all very clearly Bronze Age humans.
Yeah, there's a lot of demotions going on at that time, so
Yeah. But yeah, no, regardless, Sigmar did fuck one of them in order to get her army.
Wow, that's because he's him.
Well, yes, and that's
He's that
really all
guy.
she wanted. Like Sigmar's like, I need your army, and she's like, okay, I want you, and he was like, okay.
I needed that dick. And he's like, got ya.
and
Sigmar's
I
like, well, if I
understand-
have to make the sacrifice,
I guess I
Normally
will.
I don't do this with women.
I normally fuck orcs, but
No, I thought it was fuck with orcs.
I mean, have you seen the size of his hammer?
Well, I mean, after a battle, you're kind of like raging. So
You gotta just let it out,
Well, considering that orcs are still spore people in this universe, correct? So the only way for them to reproduce is if they die and then they shed more spores. So what exactly are we doing when we're getting into fights with orcs? Let that sink in,
Fucking 'em.
everybody.
Yes. So we should not kill the orcs. As you decide you're on. But regardless, so Sigmar, he left. He literally just left and allowed the 11, or I guess it was 10 provinces at this point. He let those provinces basically just rule themselves. He was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm fucking out. And because he was gone, all of the 10 provinces at that point, there was 10 of them at that point, immediately all started like declaring them, each one of the individual counts started immediately being like, oh well, I'll be emperor. No, I'll do it. I'll do it. Like they all started arguing immediately. And the result was that all of them gathered in the capital, and like in the capital, I believe it's called Altdorf. They gathered there, and for 3 days of just nonstop arguing, debate, threats and bribery, they just would not stop arguing over who should be the emperor. And there was like threats of like war, like, oh, I'll go to war with your nation if you don't like join me. And there was just so much there was so much like it was the empire that Sigmar fought his entire life to build. Like his literal dream was almost about to go up in flames 3 days after he left.
So like Game of Thrones light, basically.
Pretty much.
Awesome. I like this already.
The difference is, unlike Game of Thrones, the gods actually care. So a priestess of one of the old world gods, which is it's the equivalent to like pagan gods, effectively. She shows up it's basically a priestess of the god Rhea, and basically she had a vision that the empire needed her. So against everyone's better judgment, she barges into the Capitol building, which is full of all of the counts, which is basically like walking into like, what would be the equivalent? It's like walking to like the U.S. Congress, just like a homeless person walking in, basically, in the middle of like a full-on debate and arguments.
As an American IRL, I actually kind of want to see that now.
You get arrested for that shit.
Unfortunately.
To life, apparently.
Yeah, I mean that's what you would assume. You wouldn't even think you would get into the building, let alone get into the fucking main room where they're arguing. But regardless,
what did you think you were going to do when you got here? I don't know. I actually didn't think I'd get this far.
I just had a dream, and I just came in.
My dad told me through a dream, and he's dead.
Can you verify that source? Trust me, I made it up.
I got it in a dream once. Look at me, I am the king now.
Oh my fucking God. Yeah, the priestess says that in front of everyone. No, she walks in, and for reference, the god Rhea, she's very much Slanesh in 40K.
Never heard of her.
What? Okay, Mr. Elf, would you like to tell our knight friend here about what you created?
I didn't create Slanesh. Slanesh existed before I was born. What are you talking about? This is Warhammer Fantasy, not 40K.
We don't speak of things that make sense.
So for those who don't know, Slanesh is a chaos god, effectively a devil, a demon god of just and just sheer just and just the most like she's basically just pure debauchery and just sadism in just a nutshell. Rhea is basically her antithesis. Everything that Slanesh embodies, Rhea is basically the good version of it. So while Slanesh is the embodiment of like, how do I put it? Like perverse, hedonistic sexuality and just excessive debauchery, Rhea is very much a modest, she's a goddess of fertility, but she's very much a goddess of fertility, of like passion between like loving couples. Like she's almost like a goddess of like marriage and fertility in a way. And she's just generally a good god. And Rhea is, because of her concept of like bringing unity and fertility and just all this just general growth and like goodness, the concept is that Rhea wanted her priestess to bring these aspects into Altdorf, into this like chaotic environment, to basically preach Rhea's word, which is again fertility through like connection, through unity. So as she's preaching this, as she's talking, she discusses how the gods all work together to build the old world, to work together to fight off chaos, to do all these things. And again at this point, all these counts at this point, they know Sigmar, but almost none of them have been alive to fight by Sigmar's side. at this point, all of the original like chieftains, kings, whatever they were before Sigmar became the emperor, those guys are all dead. They've all died of old age or of battle or something. All these new like counts have basically like inherited the position of their predecessors. So they weren't fighting by his side to build the empire as it is. So they don't have that same level of, how do I put it, horse in the race. But because of all this, because of Rhea's preaching, all the counts, they begin to kind of agree and they kind of understand her point. So they all begin to kind of like unanimously agree that there should be a level of unity. And so this empire becomes a democracy.
That's kind of the antithesis of an empire, don't you think?
Hey, I didn't make up the fucking rules. It's
usually has an emperor too, but he went and fucked off. So
allegedly, a senile old man said they saw him become a god. So I mean,
you leave home for 5 minutes and look what happens. And here's
now,
a picture of the Imperial
still...
Palace, according to some fan art or some artistic interpretation.
Now, it is still an empire because all the counts basically vote amongst themselves who should be the new emperor. It's a presidency at this point, but it's basically a lifetime rulership. So you basically become emperor for life until you die. And so all of them plead their cases. They all plead their points like, oh, I should be the emperor because I want to do this, 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 this. And naturally, they all started like agreeing. They all started voting, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, sorry, I'm burping like fucking crazy. Too much coffee.
Hey, bartender, hold off on the ale for this elf.
I'm not drunk. I'm caffeinated. So what happens is that the successor to Sigmar would be known as Falk of Whistleland, which I think is the dumbest fucking name unless I say it with a German accent.
Hold on. Say that name again. Did I hear that? Just to make sure I heard it right. Whistleland. GW. You're inconsistent with your naming devices here. Come on, do better.
I believe it's meant to be Whistland, but Whistleland sounds funnier. Okay, for reference, if you look at the map that Gerald sent, it's the province to the most south, like to the southeast, right beside Reichland and
Wissenland.
Wissenland. Yes, exactly, Wissenland.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Former realm of Solland.
All right, so instead of saying Whistleland, because I hate that, I'm gonna say Whistleland because it's fucking hilarious.
Stick it to the humans.
Heard one of you motherfuckers humming. We don't do that around here. We whistle.
I like this guy.
I am fuck of Whistleland. I'm sorry, you say you're fuck of Whistleland? What?
No, his name is Flubb.
So, as part of his like emperorship, I guess would be the best way to put it, Falk relocates to Altdorf to he basically relocates, or he moves there because it's the capital of the empire, and mostly because it's the wealthiest city in the empire, and you kind of want to be close to that money because you're the emperor. However, all of the other counts basically renamed themselves the Elector Counts. Summon the Elector Counts. For anyone who's played Total Warhammer 3.
Is that where that phrase comes from?
Yep. So the concept is that each Elector Count has one vote. There are other ways to get more than one vote that I'll get to eventually. That are they're just not legal.
How many countesses do I have to bang to get another vote?
Yes.
I think there's like 2 or 3 countesses on the actual like council. So I mean,
all right,
let me know who to go to.
Now the thing is that Falk he wasn't a great emperor, but he was basically not very much he did was recorded, but that's mostly because you're following up Sigmar. And you can't exactly like say you did great things when you're literally following Sigmar.
His fame was he did absolutely nothing.
Did you become a god? No.
Well, fuck all of his deeds. Meanwhile, Falk is like donating to charity. He's like lifting everyone up. He's like breaking the wealth disparity. He's just doing really good things. And everyone's like, "Did he become a god? No. All right, he did nothing."
Fuck him. Falk him.
Falk him. I think it's actually important, though, given that they're talking about Sigmar's godhood, that actually bring up the cult of Sigmar.
That sounds a little spicy.
Well, the cult of the Imperium, as it is in 40K, it wasn't an official religion. It started off as a cult, naturally. So it's the same concept here.
GW, I'm on to you.
Why are they copying themselves?
I thought you said the term was circle jerk.
Yeah, circle jerk. Circle jerk. If you're from Westland.
If you're from Sigismund, yeah. You like to partake in the circle jerk.
Oh my fucking Christ. I did not expect that. So naturally Sigmar spent literally 50 years of it, before he was even 30, he conquered the entire 11 or 10 tribes and brought them to heel and made a fucking empire. Before he's fucking 30 years old, this guy's fucking amazing. Naturally, people are gonna
because we're both around the same age.
People are naturally gonna venerate him and honor him. They're not gonna worship him initially, but they are gonna venerate him. That being said, when word got out that a priest of Ulrich literally seen Sigmar basically ascend to godhood and basically take Ulrich's place among the pantheon of the gods. And this is literally a priest of Ulrich, so there's no reason he should be, denouncing his god in any way. He should be standing up for his god by every single measure. So there's no reason he should be lying. People kind of almost take his word for it, or at the very least, they don't think he's crazy. They think he must have had some sort of vision, of some divine vision or some shit. Now, initially, the cult of Sigmar does start off as it's very underground. It's very much oh, maybe Sigmar did become a god. The problem is that the Church of Ulrich is the predominant religion of the empire.
How are they going to work around that one?
Well, I believe in something called a Holy Crusade.
Like a great crusade, you mean?
No, a crusade where we kill everyone and let God sort it out. The best kind of crusade. The concept, and the funny thing is that even Sigmar worshipped Ulrich, which is even more funny because his cult is basically supplanting his own gods.
So it's you worship one god, you become a god, but then your cult is born from the cult of the god that you worship that is supplanting the god that you worship. Because that makes sense.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, the concept is that it isn't so much that Sigmar became the only god within the cult of Sigmar. It's more that he basically took Ulrich's place, and Ulrich is meant to be the Odin parallel. Among the gods of he basically he joined the old world pantheon, because every culture has their own pantheons. Even different human nations have different gods, which I think is really interesting. But the old world pantheon specifically that the Empire worships involves Rhea, Mor, Tal, a bunch of gods that you could kind of assume to be analogous to pagan gods. Like I said, Rhea is very much a fertility goddess that you kind of imagine as any other type of god. Tal is very much like a Kronos god, a hunter god, a god of the hunt. Mor, I mentioned before, that is very much a god of the dead. He's very much akin to an Anubis or a Hades type figure, where he kind of guides you along the way of death and actually protects you from chaos. Because when you die, if you worship Mor, he will actually light your path to the afterlife and keep chaos away from you.
All right, so how is he related to Nagash? Because I thought Nagash was also a god of the dead.
Well, in the old world, in the end times, Nagash literally eats more.
Oh.
And similar to how Sigmar mantles Ulrich's position among the pantheon, Nagash mantles Mor's position among the pantheon.
Okay. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I guess while we're on that subject, so I forgot to ask this question last time, but when Sigmar does take Ulrich's position as god of basically the Empire, what happens to Ulrich? Like, what does he do or go off to, or does he just go poof?
It depends on your theory because there are actually like different theories among like the Empire. And if you believe in the cult of Sigmar, basically everything that happened is canon by their viewpoint. Like even if it conflicts, it is considered canon, like according to the cult of Sigmar. So like if say a cult of Sigmar says that Sigmar fought 1v1 a dragon ogre and won, but yet was able to lose against a regular like werewolf empowered dude in a 1v1 fight, those are canon, even though there's no way power scaling wise those two should be anywhere remotely close in power, right?
Right.
But if you aspire to the cult of Ulrich, they believe that Sigmar, when he took the position of Ulrich, they view it almost as a not so I guess not so much a crime, but more like Ulrich retired. That Ulrich basically fused with Sigmar. That by retiring, he basically became part of Sigmar, and Sigmar like took his power and took a part of him with him. Like they basically became like one being. But basically, the concept is like Sigmar killed Ulrich. I say in quotation marks. It's not so much he killed them; it's more just they became one being. But by becoming one being, Ulrich basically like is no longer a being anymore.
So kind of like how Darth Vader, quote unquote, killed Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan actually just became one with the Force.
Yeah, basically. Or the whole point of or of how Vader killed Anakin Skywalker, but Anakin Skywalker is still there.
That one's a little bit more
Look,
murky, but
all I'm saying is we all make a dark personality of ourselves to deal with coping mechanism of losing everyone we love, and to blame when we blow up an entire planet. What? It wasn't me. It was Darth Vader who killed Alderaan. I'm just innocent and Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker who did nothing wrong. Pulls up list of war crimes committed during the Clone Wars. Oh, those weren't me. Those were also Vader.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Young. Sorry, what?
I
Women
heard
and
you
children
were,
too. No,
heard you
I
were
didn't kill the
killing
women and children
younglings.
too.
No. I wasn't killing younglings. I was killing at younglings. Do you know how good those bottles taste and how much they cost?
Oh my god. Look, I like Anakin Skywalker enough to excuse everything he does wrong. I literally named one of my kids after Anakin.
So was
Respect.
Ulrich a dude that ascended too, or he was always a god?
Sorry, what was that?
Was Ulrich like a dude that became a god, or was he just a god?
That also depends on your theory because I mentioned this to Gerald, I believe, in our first or second episode. I discussed, or not our first, second, in what is
Episode
Warhammer
2.
Fantasy. Yes, I discuss the concept of gods. One of the theories is that the gods are actually gods. Another is that human, just through like sheer belief, the gods were made are like manifestations of the belief, which is how they are in 40k. Another one is that they are just really powerful and really like they're basically like the first of those species. So like Ulrich, Raya, Moore, all of them are basically like the first humans made, like first humans to be like created. And by extension, because they're the first ones created, they are the most powerful, the like peak human abilities. That's another theory. I prefer that theory a little bit more, just because like I like the idea that I'm an atheist, or rather I'm agnostic, so I don't like the idea of gods being made from belief personally.
well, that and that previous comment about the power of belief makes it sound like everyone's like some level of work, and I'm not sure how I feel about that statement.
Yeah. So like that's just me though. So like it really comes down to like what you want to believe they are. If you want to say that Ulrich was a god, that's fine. He was always a god. Because like given just how like weirdly specific his portfolio is, given he's the god of warriors, wolves, winter, and sorry, there's one more. Oh, and war.
That
Which
must
is
have
like
been a very strange day at the Pantheon lot drawing. It's like,
I know,
okay,
right?
whoever grabs the short stick is gonna get all the W's. And Ulrich, oh look who grabbed the short stick. I'm sorry, let's give you all the W's.
Yeah, what W's do we have left here? Winter, yeah, we'll give him that one. Wolves, yeah, we'll give him that one.
It looks like Wolf was his favorite W. Shit.
Wolf,
Well, he literally has werewolves, so I mean,
The picture of him with the full-on wolf on his back.
there's also a
Oh
picture
no,
of
that's a
him literally
warrior
just being a
priest.
wolf.
Sorry.
Like, there's literally a picture of him manifesting as literally just a big ass, like, mountain-sized white wolf with like flaming eyes.
Yeah, I don't like him. I'm glad he's dead.
I should mention something else regarding to Ulrich. When Sigmar left, there are rumors, like there are sightings that said that they seen Sigmar walking beside a massive horse-sized boar and a massive, equally sized white wolf. So in our previous episode, one of the challenges Sigmar had to do to earn like the god's favor was to hunt a large black boar, which was one of the gods.
Apparently, Hercules was one of his favorite stories that he wanted to reenact.
Basically, the general concept is that Sigmar is basically being guided to wherever he needed to be by Ulrich, who is the white wolf, and by Tal, who would be the boar, because Tal summoned the boar to hunt Sigmar or whatever.
To hunt alliterations through the world.
Yeah.
Black boars and white wolves.
It's very weird how Sigmar literally has all these amazing things and everyone else is just a regular dude.
Are you sure you're a Bretonian knight? Because that was a very intelligent observation.
Oh, me fuck horse.
Me fuck horse. Me fuck horse. Me drink lady bathwater lake. I mean, when you drink water from a lake and it turns you into Captain America, are you really gonna say no?
No.
Right, yeah, I read that part. It was cool. But you told me to stop, so I'll stop.
I'll get to Bretonia when I get to Bretonia.
Be careful to listen to the elf there, Flubb. He just doesn't want you to drink the Kool-Aid.
I don't know. It kind of
Literally.
sounds like I want to drink the Kool-Aid.
I mean, there are some elves who definitely want him to drink the Kool-Aid. But because the cult of Sigmar is basically like a growing thing now, like it's becoming a growing thing, especially since he's gone. When he was around, he was very much similar to the Emperor in 40k, where like you're around, people are like, oh, you must be like you're an avatar of Ulrich, blah 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 blah. He could always be like, no, I would never compare myself to one of the gods. He could always like denounce it like personally. But when you're gone, you can't exactly say no. You can't exactly deny people worshiping you. So naturally, the worship of Sigmar became bigger and bigger and bigger. And a lot of the elector counts during Falk's reign to try and like earn favor, like not just with each other. Like it was basically a way to like both flex on other counts as well as earn the popularity of like the locals. They'd make like exorbitant I don't want to say bribes. Bribes sounds bad. Donations. They'd make
but are actually bribes.
They're to the cult of Sigmar.
Tax-deductible bribes.
There you go.
I mean, that's actually pretty true. I mean, it's in the Batman thing. Bruce Wayne, why would you donate something so priceless? It's tax deductible. But yeah, it was basically like, let's say I'm the elector count of Reichland, and I want to become the emperor, or I have aspirations of becoming the emperor when Falk dies. I'm gonna make like so many donations to the cult of Sigmar, so everyone who sees these donations will be like, wow, you must really love Sigmar. Surely you could be the next emperor. And it's also a way to like flex on all the other like fellow elector counts, because they're seeing you make all these donations. It's basically you flexing your wealth on them, as well as almost like flexing your loyalty to the emperor, or like rather to the empire.
I don't know why I'm suddenly getting unitology vibes from Dead Space right now.
I actually never played Dead Space.
Okay, make note of this right now. Okay, continue on.
Wait, no, I know of unitology. I heard it like once, but that's besides the point. Yeah, they're making these donations, and naturally all the other elector counts, like let's say Flubb is an elector count, and he sees me like donating like $1,000 to the cult of Sigmar. He's gonna be like, oh, fuck you, I'm gonna donate like 1,500 to the cult of Sigmar. You know, they're trying to like flex their wealth and also like trying to earn favor with the population and with the cult of Sigmar. And because of all the wealth that the cult of Sigmar is earning, they're like exploding with like popularity and like with priests and with all these people because they're being flooded with wealth so fast so easily, and they're literally growing very fast to the point that they're actually like almost starting to rival the cult of Ulrich really even faster than like they already were, which is naturally going to start causing some problems.
Just a little bit. I can
Um,
name I'm sure nothing dire will come of this religious conflict whatsoever.
no, because nothing ever happens when two religious sects meet each other.
Hmm. Nope. Can't think of anything. Nope.
Nope. Now, while the elector counts were making donations to the cult of Sigmar, the cult of Sigmar was in and of itself also making its own donations to other elector counts because they had basically become so wealthy so fast they could themselves expend this wealth. In other words, the cult of Sigmar was basically bribing elector counts to basically vote for other elector counts when the time to become emperor was open. So when Falk died, the cult of Sigmar would use its wealth to basically bribe other elector counts to vote for an elector count who was in their favor. So again, to use us as the example, let's say Gerald was an elector count who was super in favor of the cult of Ulrich or the cult of Sigmar getting a bunch of benefits. Well, they might bribe me and Flubb to vote for Gerald when the time comes. We would do it because we got fucking bribed out of our asses, and Gerald becomes the new emperor and uses a bunch of his new power and ability to give the cult of Sigmar even more free reign to do whatever they want.
I imagine this like weird exchange where it's just like, okay, say Flubb is the elector count in this situation, and I'm like a high priest of Sigmar. Flubb donates 1,500 gold coins or whatever to my cause or whatnot. But I see he's a man of wealth and taste, and obviously clearly good choices here. I decide to donate 1,500 gold coins to his cause to make him more popular. So either way, neither of us are actually making any kind of money out of this.
But you guys are both earning a bunch of renown and clout. Now, this is basically how things go for a good like 500 years. So imagine this whole situation like continuing for like 500 years nonstop.
Okay, I can see that.
Yes. Now, to streamline what happens for these 500 years, the cult of Sigmar, again, continues to grow so powerful that basically every single province, except for Midland, which is the middle province, if it wasn't obvious.
It was?
Please consult the map for further information.
Who'd have thunk?
Well, I guess it's not really the middle of it, but it's up there. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Look at Flubb's meme. Called the Sigmar Elector Count. I mean that's pretty accurate. But yes, because of how popular the Cult of Sigmar became, they were basically trying to get their own say to the point that they actually wanted their own votes. So it wasn't even that they wanted to bribe other counts to vote for other counts. It was, oh, we're so powerful, we should have our own vote on top of bribing. And I'm just going to say this now. They do get a vote, and then they get 2 more votes on top of that.
So it's like that weird French Revolution thing that kind of set it all off. It's just like the king and the nobility get 1 vote. The clergy get 1 vote. And then the general populace of like 90% of France's population, they get 1 vote.
Yes. I mean, except in this case, the clergy gets 3 votes and the elector counts get 1 vote.
And the populace get half a vote.
Yep. Oh, they don't even get a vote.
Oh, they do on paper.
They just get taxed.
That too. Oh, you're crying because you're sad about not getting a vote? Oh, yeah, there's a tax for the salt.
Oh my god. Yeah, basically the concept is the clergy. Basically the high clergyman, basically the Pope, gets 1 vote, and then his 2 assistants also each get a vote. But because like these 3 are basically like holding hands the entire time, if that Pope basically says that he wants something, the other 2 are obviously going to join him. They could vote for others, but like if you're like a bishop or a deacon, whatever the fuck you want to compare them to, and then the Pope votes for someone, you're not exactly going to go against them.
Nah.
So, things are a little unfairly skewed in terms of the church, but that's besides the point. Because, despite how clearly corrupt the entire like governing structure is, this is actually the closest thing to a golden age the empire is actually going to have.
Well, if I'm being
Because-
honest, this sounds like a better golden age compared to what the 40K equivalent goes through.
Well, I mean, I'd agree. Because like government's always going to be corrupt, so it's kind of expected that it's kind of like you can expect them to be corrupt. Like, what's that? They're bribing each other. Well, that's just another day. I'm just a lowly
just another
peasant
day.
farming
Yeah,
farming the lands.
Just leave us alone. Let us farm my beans and potatoes.
So basically, like I said, those first 500 years of the empire being born was basically them trying to like get their shit in order. There was them trying to like organize, trying to like get, trying to figure out what the empire would be like without Sigmar. It's weird that it took 500 years to figure out what's going on, but I'm not an electric count. I don't know how long it takes for an empire to get its foot in gear.
Well, better
Regardless.
500 years to figure out what's going on than 10,000 years to just degrade into whatever the fuck the Imperium turned into.
Agreed. But for the next 500 years that followed it, this would basically be the golden age, the greatest peak that the empire would ever have. Which, if you know anything about the timeline, might make you uncomfortable because I said that the current timeline is like 2,500 and something.
And now, is this like your OG Warhammer Fantasy, or is this like the old world, quote unquote, that GW is trying to bring back?
This would be the OG.
Okay.
Yeah, like OG Warhammer Fantasy timeline is like 2,500 years, like in the Imperial calendar. When the Golden Age happens, is between the years 600 and 1,000 of the Imperial calendar, which means after the Golden Age is 15,000 years of effectively
1500
steady.
Ray.
Yeah,
Come on.
it's
I
it's
know
a
you're
little bit of a
an elf, but
decline.
you're better with numbers than that.
Well, look, I've had a lot of coffee right now. It's not my fault. My brain's focusing on a lot of things at once.
Yeah, let me try that coffee here. Bartender, I told you not to sneak in more ale.
Okay, fine. 1,500 years. Okay, shut up. This is why you handle the money and I handle the words.
And that's 1 coin away from your paycheck.
It's okay. I was gonna spend it on gambling anyway. So during the Golden Age, like there's literally a name for the Golden Age, which is called the Age of Expansion and Conquest, which
Okay.
doesn't sound great for anyone except the Empire. So basically, during this age, like humanity is as strong as it will ever be in like every single like measure. Like it is as powerful as it's ever going to be politically, militarily, economic, and like just the sheer amount of geography that they control. Now, it doesn't mean that over the course of like the remaining 1,500 years that follow, that they never reach like as high in any one of these individual departments. It's more that during these 500 years, this is when all of those departments were like maxed out.
Huh.
Yes.
So, like in
During
true
the-
Warhammer
oh.
fashion, it's only downhill from here.
Yeah. But of course, we have to go up first.
That's true. That's true. And speaking of
And-
going up, I have found another map of an empire, and I just received a letter from corporate, and they want me to find the difference between the map I just found and the map that you just posted.
The Holy
I can't
Roman
really see a
Empire.
difference. I can't really see a difference here. They're the same picture.
Well, a funny thing, would you believe me if I said the Empire of Man was based off of the Holy Roman Empire?
As a history buff, yes, I believe you.
I mean, that would explain the 1,000 years of decline that the Roman Empire had, and the 1,500 years of decline that the Empire had.
Oh man. But hey, okay, I'm actually going to give GW a little bit of credit there. They're ripping off the Holy Roman Empire, which is different from the Roman Empire that the Imperium is based on. So I'll clap my hand to that.
Another
That's just
comparison,
specifically Germany, though, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, and then the big void is France, which would be Bretonia. Oh, damn, they copied that like one for one, didn't
Yeah. He says under his breath.
they?
Here's another comparison though. Sigmar has a very strong wolf theme based around him. Now, who built the Roman Empire? Or rather, who founded it? Was it a guy named
Jesus.
Romulus who was raised by wolves?
Yes.
I'm just saying. Sometimes GW is just really good, and sometimes they do really ass.
To quote the emperor himself from Texas Speech, all I ever got from that was wolf, 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 and wolf.
Unlike the Space Wolves, I actually like Sigmar. But to kind of further explain what's going on, so for general theme, what happens is that during the Age of Expansion, every single one of the provinces are not as big as they are on the map that I showed, like the Empire map. All of them are basically like a lot smaller than they are, and even then, some of the provinces that I've shown on the map don't exist at this point. So literally, imagine like if all the provinces are where they are, but they're a lot smaller and they're a lot more like condensed in size. During the Age of Expansion is when a lot of these provinces begin like pushing outwards and expanding and begin kind of like actually growing in size and further interconnecting. And there's actually a lot of like smaller, very, very small human tribes that live basically isolated lives among like the very far end of the empire that Sigmar never actually like brought to heel. Like as far as a lot of them were concerned, they were basically being like taxed. Like you're basically a farmer that lives in like a hamlet in the middle of fucking nowhere, and suddenly like the local warlord doesn't show up for like a good 50 years. And suddenly out of nowhere, a fucking like army shows up carrying like fucking steel age weapons while you guys are like farmers that are barely like knowing how to grow potatoes properly.
Hey, they make good potato soup.
Indeed. So it is very much like a very strong like unification of like this landmass, bringing like isolated, very small hamlets into like the upper space, uplifting them to like a much greater standard of living. Just making things overall better and better for everyone. Now, to go over some of the expansions, not only did the provinces expand, but they wanted to push the boundaries of the empire. Because if you remember, Sigmar's dream was to literally control the landmass, like the entire like continent, basically. Now, the map of the old world is not the entire continent, obviously. It's at best Europe. It's at best like Northern Europe. So, wanting to fulfill Sigmar's dream, the Empire basically starts leading a bunch of expeditions in basically every single direction. So, if you go back to the map that I showed, like the map of the Empire or the map that you showed, Gerald, the provinces of Ostland and Telebakland, they basically unite. They're it's a singular empire, but these two provinces have their collective armies basically marshaled together, and they push north, or I guess northeast, towards what would eventually become Kislev. And the idea was that, if you remember, a lot of Chaos Marauders and like Chaos Worshippers were forced northward. The idea was to push northward to where what would effectively be like Russia, and to colonize this region in preparation for future Chaos invasions.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was what happened when Hitler and Napoleon tried to invade Russia.
Father Winter came in and bodied everybody.
Yeah. So same story. Basically, Ostland and Telebekland, they moved northwards, and any settlements that they did form were basically swallowed up by the snows and the supermassive polar bears that lived there.
And this is why you do not invade Mother Kislev.
I really like Kislev. I'm not gonna lie, I fucking love Kislev. They're like,
It sounds
really
very
up there.
Russian, and I like it.
Are they getting
Well, not only
models
that-
with the reboot?
That's a
I
good
believe they
question.
are. I believe they are. But another reason I like Kislev is because they are always ruled by a woman, and the woman is always a snow witch. Is always like a snow sorceress.
So it's Elsa.
Yeah. Except imagine Elsa, but like She's a war-hardened veteran who's fighting demons on her front lawn all the time.
Well, I don't think she's going to be letting that go anytime soon.
That's copyright.
I added the ing to the end. Legally distinct Disney.
Legally distinct. I don't know. I've
Darth
seen Disney
Mickey.
lawyers.
Hey, Goofy, slap him with a lawsuit. Oh!
I'm gonna fucking do it again.
Don't make me lower your social credit score, haha.
I'll do it again.
So naturally, invading Kislev didn't do so well. They did build some forts, but I think this is where they were pretty stupid, the Empire, because the idea was like, okay, well, we can't invade Russia. Let's build forts along Russia's borders. In this case, along Kislev's borders, which doesn't sound bad, except for the fact that Kislev was basically the buffer zone between Chaos invaders, because like Chaos can like travel across the sea, obviously, but like aside from crossing the sea, which is incredibly treacherous and hazardous because of like the cold weather and bullshit, otherwise they have to travel via land. And naturally, if they're traveling northward, they have to travel through Kislev to the Empire. So they basically like set up a wall in front of like the people who were being their buffer zone, and basically put the people that were their buffer zone against the wall.
So what you're trying to say is Kislev is like Poland in the Cold War.
That might be a more accurate example.
Ha 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 ha.
So, for reference, though, Kislev is not like the Empire because of this reason.
See, if a armored, a bunch of armored knights come in and says your province is going to be a buffer zone to protect them from the enemy, well, what do we get out of it? Absolutely nothing. Yeah,
Absolutely nothing.
yes.
They'll also build a wall. They'll also build like a series of walls so you can retreat southward when you get invaded.
Why does Kislev hate us? Was it the wall?
I feel like the northern wall really made them upset.
We built the walls and the Kislevs paid for it.
Oh my god!
I wish. You might actually.
I'm
like
building
the Empire
big,
if they
giant
did some
walls.
base shit like that.
Now listen, we're going to build a big giant wall, and we're going to keep all the northerners out, and we'll make the northerners pay for it.
Oh man!
Why do I feel like Kislev hates us? Although the Empire is kind of making enemies all over the place because rip the dwarves.
What?
So remember how Sigmar, fought tooth and nail to keep the alliance between the dwarves, happening?
Am I about to not like Sigmar and his little empire?
Well, you'll still like Sigmar because remember he fought tooth and nail for the dwarves.
Yeah,
You just might not like the Empire.
Oh, lay it on me.
So if Ostland and Talabekland are moving north, Stirland and Averland are moving eastward. And you might notice that to go east, they have to go through mountains.
What about Mootland?
I'll get to
It's a moot
Mootland.
point.
It gets made eventually.
Is there
It's not made.
nothing
It's
there?
not made until
It's moot.
a little bit later.
Because it's all a moot point.
There's nothing there.
No, it's where the halflings live.
Oh, gross.
It's actually like a reserve.
Yeah, keep the animals all. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I literally mean that it's literally like a reserve, isn't it? It was like a stretch of land given to the halflings to like farm and like live there so they can like continuously be taxed and like kept there so that they're not anywhere else.
I had this weird image of halflings farming themselves so they can be plucked and harvested by ogres because of that comment that you made in the second episode about halflings being made to feed ogres.
Farm themselves. That's
All right, honey, keep pushing.
yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful baby boy.
Oh, it's
All
coming
right,
up from the
that'll
ground.
be one extra large child on a nice thick bun. One halfling child. What's veal? What would be the halfling equivalent of veal?
A newborn baby, like you just said. A toddler that's been tied to his bed all day, all his life.
Oh, gosh.
And in the ogre's camp, it's just like, honey, what's for supper? What are you going to tell them?
Oh, I don't feel like making anything. All right, let's go out to Mootland.
We're going to order
Oh my
takeout.
God. No,
Get
let's go to
ourselves some fast
McDonald's.
food.
Let's go to McDonald's. I'll have one big halfling with a side order of halfling feet. But the halfling jokes aside, yes, Stirland and Everland push eastward, which is, they have to go through these massive mountain ranges. And if you remember who lives in the mountains, those are the dwarves.
Oh, shit.
Now, here's the thing. During the first 500 years of the Empire, there were actually, like I said, there's isolated tribes all over the place. And some of these tribes actually lived among near the mountains. And these like tribes and villages, they weren't part of the Empire. They were actually considered like vassal. And these were considered like vassal cities or vassal villages of the dwarves. So like imagine like human settlements that were like ruled and like controlled by the dwarves, like fairly peacefully. The Empire saw these humans living among the dwarves as vassals, as like, oh, we need to save them, we need to liberate them. So naturally, they start invading dwarven lands and like basically taking these people that were living fairly peacefully among the dwarves. Yeah, maybe they were like kind of second-class citizens, but like hardly, and like basically forcefully bringing them into the Empire, and then further pushing even deeper into the mountain ranges to basically like take over some like the mining industry that the dwarves had already previously set up.
I don't like this.
Yeah. It's not the greatest. Naturally, the dwarves did not like this, and like even to this day, still hold like, I don't want to say resentment, but they're not happy.
So that's where I found all those grudge tokens. That's what it's for.
Now, at the same time, though, the Emperor at the time was named after like one of my favorite Warhammer characters, Sigismund.
Yeah,
And
don't have to copyright too many names now. So
yeah, basically Sigismund was very much like he was literally named Sigismund the Great. So I'm wondering where the inspiration came from. Because when he became the emperor, his first goal was to, like I said, there was 12 tribes in total of the old world. One of them fucking dipped and became the Bretonia because they were cowards and didn't want to help defend against the orcs.
Ray, watch who you're saying this to. I don't like the look of his axe.
I don't know about the other Bretonians, but that's literally all I do is fight orcs.
I can't speak for those guys over there, but I can happily say that I killed my fair share of orcs.
X-Bike Pass isn't going to keep itself open. All right.
Now, like I said, 10 tribes run Sigmar against the orcs. The Bretoni left and became Bretonia. The other one was called the Jutons, and they basically traveled to the west into what is now called the Wastelands. Don't worry why it's called the Wasteland. It's fine.
I'm sure it's a beautiful place.
It's actually a very fun meadow of flowers and roses.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it called? The Juton?
The Jutones. So it's Jutones.
I'm sure they're alive and thriving.
Oh,
absolutely.
You see, they were until Sigismund was like, "Hey, you guys are bitches, so I'm gonna take that land," because they were basically like their own isolated They were basically their own like isolated nation that like existed right beside the Empire. And Sigismund was kind of like, "Why has no one conquered these guys yet?" So Sigismund did not like that fact that the Jutones were not part of the Empire. So he was like, "Hey, you see this sword? You see this army? You see these 9 other armies? You see how you guys have won? Yeah, fuck you." And he proceeded to conquer the Jutones. He slaughtered many of them, but he tried his best to conquer them, to limit casualties, because You need someone to farm the land. Now, the Jutones they would officially join the Empire as the Westerlands, which is very similar to the Westerlands from Game of Thrones.
Ah, Tywin Lannister.
Yes. Except I think these guys end up a little bit worse than the Lannisters, given that the land that they live in eventually becomes called the Wasteland. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Fuck the Lannisters anyways. Tywin was the only cool one.
I think Tyrion's cool.
Okay, Tyrion's too much of a good guy to be a Lannister.
Jamie had an incredible arc, and then they just
he did,
at the
and
very
then
end,
they
just
screwed it
said,
up.
Fuck it.
I was just
Fuck
like,
this
I don't
guy.
respect you anymore.
We spent seasons making you like him, but you know what? Fuck him.
Now, speaking of people you like, but then you end up fucking them. Remember how Flubb said he likes Britonia?
Yes, I think he was bathed in the Lady Bathwaters.
He says,
I didn't bathe in it, I drank it. It's different.
Well, either way, Knight isn't his title, so I think he knows a thing or two about a thing or two.
Yeah, he slurped it down pretty good.
Goes down smooth.
Oh god. See, I only wanted to buy it because I wanted to use it to make hot dogs out of it. See, now Sigismund, he basically wanted to become the new Sigmar, or that was his goal, was to do what Sigmar couldn't do, which basically is a little too. It's basically very much pushing it, because Sigmar became a god and Sigismund does not have a cult named after him. But what I mean by this is that the reason why he went against the Jutones was to basically bring the province, or the nation that refused Sigmar to heal, as a way to fulfill what Sigmar couldn't do. Now, like I said, the Jutones were one of the tribes that refused. The other were the Bretoni. So Sigismund, wanting to bring the Bretoni to heal to the Empire, led a full-scale invasion of Bretonia.
Is this the Battle of Montfort?
It might be.
What do you have to say about that, dear Flubb?
We won, so fuck it.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, okay. I don't want to say they won, because Sigismund had a bunch of fortresses built on the other side, in Bretonian territory, and then he left. So
So he just gave us forts, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just here you go. You get a fort, and you get a fort, and you get a fort. Everybody gets a fort.
I think that's the funniest part, though, is that he was just all right, we invaded Bretonia. We just fought our way through Axis Pass. All right, let's build some forts on this side of the mountains. All right, let's head home, guys. And I'm just what? What?
Great job, everybody.
I think I just seen that guy riding a horse, and I think I just seen him rip a guy in two. You know what? I'm going home. Fuck this shit. I'm gonna go back to subjugating the Jutones.
Oh man.
I mean, I think this does say a lot, though, because after Sigismund leaves Bretonia, again, he builds forts and he leaves. He leaves them very minorly garrisoned, because in his mind, okay, I'm done. I built fortresses. I can go now. He leaves and he goes to, instead of fighting superhumans who ride horses, goes to fight more feral tribes of humans. So,
and how does he fare compared to that?
Well, I mean, he fucks them over, but I'm pretty sure it's because he was fighting feral humans. But here's another thing, though. Remember how I said that Stirland and Averland were invading the dwarves' mountains?
Yeah, fuck those guys.
Sigismund was like, hey, you know what? You guys are doing a great job. Thanks for establishing a beachhead. So Sigismund takes his army, and in probably I don't want to say the cruelest bit of irony, but in almost spitting on the alliance that the Empire and the dwarves had, he basically leads his army through Blackfire Pass.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He basically moves on the other side of the mountains.
You've got mail.
Oh yes, of course. Flubb has to post the Battle of Montfort because he has to show how proud he is of his fucking heritage.
Good. You beat me to it.
A pretty good castle, though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's epic. I like me some good castles.
So if you guys want to look at the map, you'll notice that there's the massive mountain range at the very bottom. You'll see the border princes.
Yes.
What's that weird thing in the mountains? Look like a geode.
That's
It
a
is kind of
river.
like a geode.
I think it's called the Dark Lake or something. It's basically like a massive body of water.
Huh.
I'm also pretty sure that's the one that the Skaven threw a bunch of warp stone into, but I could be wrong.
Someone tried drinking from it.
Yeah.
Anyone tried seeing if there's a lady in it?
If you drink from it, you're definitely gonna see a lady. So, on the other side of the mountains, like where it says the border princes, these are basically more feral tribes of humans that were they were basically like similar to what Sigmar was. They were Bronze Age tribes that were like kind of fighting. Now, what I don't understand, this is just completely me thinking out loud. The orcs had to pass through this region to get through the Blackfire Pass, which is like that little stretch of road between the mountains. So my immediate thought was, how the fuck are there feral humans living there when like the biggest army of orcs had to pass through this region? That's just me thinking out loud. But I'm wondering. Now, regardless how humans ended up there and how they weren't all instantly slaughtered against an army of 1 million orcs, there are feral tribes there. I don't know why, but
They might
Sigismund
have pulled the
decides he's gonna
dwarf
go
thing. They
conquer
might
them.
learn a thing or two from the dwarves and hid in caves.
That might be a reason.
Maybe they went around.
Or maybe they just stood very, very still, and orc vision is based on movement.
Oi, where's the gitch now? I can't see him.
One guy scratches his nose, he immediately gets fucking hacked to pieces.
Oi, I see him. Did this
I don't
really
see him
paint themselves
before.
purple? Have you seen a purple Umi?
Oh my god. And I'm pretty sure the border princes have purple on their flag.
So maybe
Or I
that's
guess
why
not
the
the
orcs
flag.
didn't fight. Or maybe that's why they survived the orcs, because they're all painted purple.
But regardless, Sigismund decides that he's going to again move through Blackfire Pass. And if you remember, like where the border princes are, this is what's considered the Badlands, which is like basically like a rough country. It's full of orcs, goblins, ogres, all the like bad monster bullshit. Sigismund's basically like, I'm going to invade this and like establish a beachhead and like establish a fort here. So he begins subjugating a bunch of the feral human tribes here, and they basically established like an offshoot province. Like it's a province, but it's not officially part of the empire. And the moment Sigismund leaves, and the moment like basically the majority of like imperial control leaves, they immediately fall into infighting and become a bunch of separate, independent like city states called the Border Princes. Now, I remember how I said Kislev was like the buffer zone against the Northern Chaos Invaders?
And they don't quite like the Empire.
Yeah, the Border Princes are basically the eastern buffer zone for the Empire. And you guys remember Bretonia?
Yes.
Never heard of it.
That's the southern buffer zone. You guys noticing a trend here?
Yes.
I just find it humorous to imagine they're like, oh look, another people we can use as cannon fodder while we prepare for an invasion. Oh, that being said, though, like Kislev, who again I really fucking love because they're really just fucking hardcore people. The Border Princes, like I say, they're infighting city states, but that I don't want to disrespect them by saying that they're just city states, because you have to remember these guys live in the Badlands on the other side of the World Ends Mountains, so they are constantly like fighting each other and like orc invasions, ogre rotations, like all the fucking like monsters that live in the Badlands. So every single like soldier in the Border Prince's armies are really hardened veterans. They're the best equivalent would be like Cadia in 40K.
I was gonna say I was just about to make that connection. So like this is basically like Cadia, essentially.
Yeah. I mean Kislev's also like Cadia because it's literally like on the doorstep of hell, but you know.
So okay, so Border Princes are like Cadia. Kislev is like Cadia. Bretonia is they like their
Horse
horses.
Troll Slayer, they kind of wander through the Border Prince area for a little while. It's
Yeah.
very much like it wasn't really like united. It was just like this castle has this area.
Yeah, it's very much like a bunch of, like I said, it's a bunch of independent city states that are at best in like a mutual like ceasefire or in like a perpetual state of cold war against each other. So I mean, that should give you an idea of like what it's like living there. But like I said, they bring a bunch of other small nations to get a bunch of like smaller like tribes together. That includes uniting the tribes north to the north of Stirland, which is Sylvania. For reference, Sylvania is Transylvania.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't like this either.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll get to it
I was
when I
hoping
get
you'd
to
say Pennsylvania and
it.
then just be a bunch of cheesesteaks or something.
Nah, I like
Look,
cheesesteaks.
I want to limit talking about Sylvania as much as possible because I
Yeah.
really don't want to talk about Manfred.
Yeah, so that comment you made about getting to it later, please get to it never.
Like, oh my god, I don't want to talk about Manfred.
Please just tell me he does not sparkle in the fucking sunlight.
God, I wish he fucking burned. Like I wish he like burned with the heat of a million suns.
You didn't say he doesn't sparkle. Damn it.
Well, I mean,
Anyways, moving on.
yeah, it's more. I'm more just mentioning Sylvania because and I need to establish that Sylvania is there because it becomes important at some point.
Do we really have to acknowledge that they exist?
Well, eventually I will. Now, for the general purpose, you guys can't get the idea that this is the high point. Like, again, Sigismund is conquering lands, the empire is growing, expanding. They're throwing other people as fucking meat shields to keep themselves safe.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
In the
so-
words of Ultron,
Have you ever made an omelet?
Now, they're having a great stream of victories. The problem is that all victories have to come to an end. So,
Not soon enough.
do you guys see? I don't think it's on my map. It might be on Gerald's map that he posts. I hope it is. Yeah, it's on Gerald's map.
Good luck scrolling up to find it.
Don't worry, I'll just repost it.
Never.
I'll just save
Hey,
it.
I got
and
it
you'll-
up.
Okay, you posted it again.
No.
Oh,
I just found it.
Fuck
I'm making you
then.
work for this bitch.
Well, regardless, on Gerald's map, do you guys notice? I want you guys to like find Nordland, which is not actually the northmost province.
How does that? Well, hold on. The compass is kind of twisted. So wait.
Yeah, I
let me
think it
tilt my
is
head.
north. They just have it tilted.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
they do
you're right.
have it tilted. Okay.
Okay, fine. Nordland is the most northern province. Now, if you further eye Nordland, you'll notice that there is a place inside called Lorelorn Forest. Can either of you guys see that?
Barely, but yes.
Okay.
I see it very clearly.
This is basically a forest that's controlled by the Wood Elves.
Boo.
Why are you booing? You're Bretonian.
Boo.
My man.
I live in the mountains. I've never seen a tree in my fucking life.
So, Gerald, remember how I said that the Sauruses hunted down all the, or I guess like 98% of the apex predators?
yes.
Basically, the Wood Elves forests are home to like the bottom 1% of those apex predators. Not all of them, but
Yes.
like that's where you would find some of the apex predators is in the Wood Elves forests.
Mm-hmm.
And for further examination, these forests are like, again, they're controlled by Wood Elves, but they're also like teeming with natural magic, which, like I said, is something that permeates the world. But in high concentrations, it can create like apex predators. It's just a very magically rich forest.
Kind of like the spirit of, say it with me now.
I hate you. The planet where they fuck wolves. Now,
Oh,
the map doesn't do it justice because Lorelorn Forest is actually like really fucking massive. But again, like everything on this planet is like twice as big as Earth, so like it's a fucking big ass forest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at this point, people wanted to colonize Lorelorn Forest because it's a massively rich forest. It's full of a bunch of shit, but it's also teeming with beastmen, apex predators, and wood elves. And they naturally want to expand there to, take care of potential dangers before they happen. So the Westlands, Nordland, and Midland, all of them try to, I don't want to say they invade. They try to take Lorelorn Forest either through diplomacy or the occasional invasion. And every single one of those attempts, whether it's peaceful or through force, fail. Now, that's bad, already. Like, oh, Midland tried to invade. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, well, Westlands tried to use diplomacy to, take some territory. That didn't work. Well, eventually, these three provinces decide, what if we combined our forces? Now, how do you think these three... Oh, go ahead.
A human empire actually uniting to invade somebody? I believe it when pigs fly.
How do you think these three provinces' combined armies were fared against the forest of Lorelorn?
I imagine they all get bodied.
Yeah, because it's basically invading Catachan.
Yep. Oh yeah, they definitely get bodied.
Yep.
Well, I mean, when Westerland becomes the wasteland, it's kind of a spoiler.
No, the wasteland just gets not okay place because the wasteland becomes not okay place, and don't worry about it. It's actually the province of Midland that actually loses a lot of influence because of this. Which is really funny because they're the furthest away from Lorelorn Forest. Nordland and the Westlands are between them, and they still suffer the worst. But the reason they suffer the worst is because they were the ones. Basically, if Nordland and the Westlands were pushing one, each giving one guy, the Midlands were putting two for every one of their guys. They were really trying to take this because it was both a thing of pride. Because the Midlanders are really fucking stubborn.
So it was the kid that does 90% of the work in the group project, but he still gets the failing grade.
Yeah, to put into perspective, Midland still worships Ulrich, despite the entire rest of the empire predominantly worshiping Sigmar. That's how stubborn Midland is.
This sounds like a big middle finger to the empire or to the cult of Sigmar.
Yeah,
sounds like they had it coming.
So they try to invade, and all three of these provinces get bodied by a single forest of wood elves, and Midland suffers the worst. And this is basically the. Let's say you're a marathon runner. You've been running a good pace. You've been making great pace. This one defeat is basically you tripping in the middle of the marathon. It ruins everything. Yeah. Because again, the Empire's been getting victory after victory after victory. Some are Pyrrhic victories, obviously, but for the most part, they're victories. They're winning, they're expanding, they're growing and everything. The problem is that this is where things go wrong for them.
All right. Well, let me ask this: did the dwarves give them a Pyrrhic victory? Did they at least hold their own?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you can march an army straight through Blackfire Pass unopposed, what is that going to tell you?
I don't like this.
This upsets me.
This upsets me.
I'm upset. Bartender, give me something stronger.
So, you can also say Sigismund's death could also lead to the death of the Empire, but I think Sigismund was already kind of on his way out. The Empire was already losing even before Sigismund died, before he kicked the bucket.
So he was basically winning the war for the opposite team.
Don't worry, guys. We're going to win this. Why are you retreating? They have something more advanced than spears. They're literally they actually have armor, not hides.
I'm not retreating. I'm advancing the other way.
I'm advancing to a fallback position.
We are fighting so we can run away.
But I'm joking, but when you look at all the fights Sigismund has won, a lot of them are against feral human tribes. Because when he fought Bretonnia, he set up bases and left. When he tried to invade Kislev, those guys got fucking bodied. So I'm just saying. I don't think the Great really fits his title.
More like an
watch, I'm gonna get
Alexander the
some-
Swell, if you know what I mean.
I'm gonna get some fucking like Empire fanboy who's like really into Sigismund. He's gonna be messaging me just like, "How dare you insult Sigismund the Great? He conquered so many lands. Who cares if those people that he killed were wearing simple hide armors and he had full-on knight armors and outnumbered them 100-1? Sigismund was a great warrior."
Hey, as much shit talk as we've been doing about the God Emperor of mankind, we've survived all the Inquisitor attempts, so I think one little Reddit commenter is going to be okay.
I don't know. He might be Bertoni. I'm joking. I actually like the Bertoni.
We joke, we kid.
Yes. I can't stand some other races though. No names to be made though. But anyway, so with Sigismund dead, can you guys guess which of these provinces decided to jump at the chance to elect new emperor?
Yes.
Reichland.
Incorrect.
Just yes.
Reichland is all good, and everyone there is nice and happy because that's where Sigmar comes from. So nothing bad ever happens there.
It's fine.
No.
It's fine.
Midland actually makes a play for the throne, despite getting fucking bodied by.
Yeah, I thought they were the failures.
They don't know.
Yeah,
when to
that's
quit,
why
do
they want to be the. That's why they want to have an emperor.
Oh, their plan was to fail upwards all along.
Basically,
Damn it, we cannot escape the Skaven.
Oh dear God!
Yes.
Basically, the elector count of Midland and like all of his like nobles basically like bribe so many people, and it's the only time they actually give like lip service to the cult of Sigmar. They're doing everything they can to get votes to like bribe their way into the emperor position, which they do, and they do. And the elector count does become an emperor. Now, this is something I didn't mention. I'm going to mention it now. When you become an emperor, and you're like, when the elector count becomes the emperor, they don't move to Reichland and live in Altdorf. What happens is that the capital of that province becomes the new capital of the empire.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
So
don't like that. They should change
Yeah.
that.
It was basically a way of like creating some level of like community. Like everyone gets the capital at some point. I don't like it because I can imagine this makes maps like unimaginably like unreliable. Like every 50 years or something, the map has to get updated.
Oh,
Kind of like
imagine-
turning it on
imagine
its
the United
side and
States
having
did
the
something
compass
like that.
pointing to the west.
So, for Midland, their capital was, I think it was called Drakenwald or Drakewald or whatever you want to call it. But that was like the capital city of it. Now, if you notice the map, you'll notice there is no Drakenwald anywhere on the Midland province. You guys wonder why that is?
I can't imagine it had
They got-
anything to do with them baking cookies.
Got renamed to Delbert or whatever that is. Delbers.
Diabers, the Burrs, whatever you want to pronounce it.
The burp.
No, it collapses and becomes abandoned, but that's besides the point.
Midland stays winning.
We'll fail upwards. We just have to keep going down. Eventually, we'll springboard up.
Hashtag winning.
If they were praying to the god of W's, they might actually get a win once in a while.
There you go.
If they pray to the god of W's, they might get a W.
Clearly, they're praying to the wrong god.
No.
Oh, wait, they're praying to Ulrich. What am I talking about?
Oh, so they're not getting a W. Oh, they're getting. Oh, did you turn it to Wombo?
They're whiffing it. How are we?
What
how
sauce
are
of
we
this
losing?
in
We're
it?
praying to the god of W's. Yes, you guys are sure whiffing it. I'm imagining like Ulrich's like throwing them like soft underhand balls, and every single swing they give, they fucking just miss.
It's like, come on, guys. I can't make this any easier for you.
Meanwhile, Sigmar's like walking down the road with like an army, and they're just like rocking out to like music or some shit. They're like the fucking cool kids on the block now. Now, this wasn't bad enough. The emperor of Midland at the time, the idea was that not only did he want to become the emperor to like regain some of his crippling influence. It was basically like, oh, I'm the emperor now, so everyone has to respect me. It was also that because of how much money they spent on bribes, that basically all the nobility in Midland were basically broke.
I was gonna ask, like, with all these bribes and their constant failing upwards and just getting bodied and everything, is just like, do they even have anything left?
No, that's why one of the first things they did upon becoming like the capital, like becoming emperor and shit, was they immediately started taking a little bit off the top of the tax money every intake.
I'm smelling Robin Hood vibes now.
It was we got a million gold coins. What? We only got 900,000 gold coins.
Like I said,
Taxes are really low
800,000
this
gold
year.
coins. So remember, store that in a bank so you can protect your 700,000 gold coins. Wink, wink.
So
yes, this ledger says 600,000 gold coins. Like I said, 500,000 gold coins.
so naturally, the people of Midland the Empire in general are not getting the money they need for taxes aren't going where they're supposed to, which is exactly like real life, but
It's funny and sad because it's true.
why does this hurt so much?
Oh,
I mean, all things considered, the fact that it took 1,000 years for the tax economy to become corrupt, kind of says a lot.
well, give credit where credit's due. It took the Imperium 10,000 years to get to where they are, so they must be doing something right.
Oh my God, we're defending the Imperium.
Oh, what is wrong with us?
But yes, like I said, every intake they would take the nobles, like specifically the emperor, who was the leader of Midland. He would take a little bit off the top, and you would naturally have to pay back all the bribes that his nobles did. So any money he took off the top, he would take for himself and give back to the nobles. And what happened was that because all this money that should go to taxes was basically being flooded back to the upper class. The upper class started to regain prestige, but it was very superstitious prestige. Like imagine you're like fucking like I don't know, fucking Ostland or like Tibetland or any of the nations that are like having to deal with like the North and like all like the harsh lands and environments. You have fought and earned your place, and then you just realize that Midland is basically like siphoning all your taxes, and the wealthy people there are just getting more and more like rich, and like making all the money they lost back.
Hot take incoming.
So basically,
you
like
go-
when you owe a huge debt to the crown, all of a sudden that gets forgiven. But then the people that paid their debt to the crown don't like that.
Yep. Not great at all. Not to mention, you remember Midland also worships the cult of Ulrich more than the cult of Sigmar. So already they're on everyone's shit list even more. Now
It seems like every
this-
faction we have talked about thus far, there's always been that one friend or that one group that is always on the shit list or is the shit list.
Yes. Now, what happened was that event over the course. Now, what happened is that normally every emperor, like every successive emperor, comes from like another like province. Like, oh, maybe the last emperor was from Tibetland, the next one's from Stirland, the one after that's from Reichland, the one after that's from Nordland. Because of how much money the Midland nobility was getting from taxes, they basically kept bribing every other province to keep voting for them. So you literally had like a dynasty of Midland emperors that kept happening one after another. And because this kept happening, every single emperor perpetuated the cycle of taking more money off the top for literally generations.
Oh, there's so much irony in that. It's just it's just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
All right, we're skimming money off the top. Okay, time to pick a new emperor. Okay, here's your bribe, and here's your bribe, and here's your bribe, and oh shit, we're broke again. Okay, time to skim some more off the top, and here's your bribe, and here's your bribe.
Yep. You see where the issue is coming. Now, now this resulted in like every single generation taking more and more off the top, like quite literally. Eventually, like it got to the point where like almost no money from taxes was going where it should, and it was all going to nobility of Midland. And because they were so wealthy, because they were getting so much money and becoming so wealthy, they started using this wealth to basically fund. Okay, remember how the elves had their pleasure cults?
Yes.
Midland starts having their own little pleasure cults going on.
Damn it, Slash.
Well, they weren't actually worshiping Sun Ash. They were just having, one too many orgies and one too many coked up halfling hunts.
Oh, wow.
I thought the halflings
Yeah, I mean,
were farming themselves.
Yeah. One of the pastimes of one of the Midland emperors was hunting halflings, was like riding on horseback and letting halflings loose and just like hunting them.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a scouring in this shire.
Well, the worst part is that the Shire does get like scoured several times by like a bunch of other people. So I mean,
Oh man.
yeah, the poor dwarves. Well, not the poor dwarves, the poor halflings.
Yeah, they actually, in their defense, they actually do kind of get it worse than the dwarves.
Now, if this couldn't get worse, it actually could.
Why am I not surprised?
Because the emperor and like the nobility of Midland was succumbing to this, and because like Midland was like the main province for like so many generations, a lot of these like hedonistic actions were kind of like seeping into the other like neighboring provinces, which because they were literally the middle of the empire, that was every province around them. So every province started having their own little like pleasure cults and like hedonistic rituals and like all the little debaucherous acts. And it got so bad that it was very similar to like the Necrons, where every province was getting progressively more like hedonistic, selfish, and petty, to the point that like if you were say the elector count of like one of the provinces, well, you want to make sure that your deeds are recorded. You want to make sure that when you went for a hunt, that your deeds were recorded, that every single step you took was like poetically recited by like 3 different bards at once. You want to have it was very much a point where the nobility was like so wealthy from the bribes and all of the like hedonistic rituals and all that bullshit that like the lower class, this was where the biggest like wealth disparity was happening, and just not great things.
No.
um
It's
Now-
honestly surprising that, like, with all these pleasure cults and all this violence and all this scheming or whatnot, it's like you mentioned a couple episodes ago. It's just like it's honestly surprising that like chaos is hardly involved in all this.
Yeah, exactly. Chaos is surprisingly weak in Warhammer Fantasy. Now, again, this is really bad because this period was basically one of the worst periods. So, this period was known for having some of the worst like political strife, assassinations, infighting, and bribery like ever. Like this was like the worst possible like period of time for all those things. And it also saw the rise of the worst emperor in like all of the empire's history. You guys want to know what his name was?
What?
Boris the Gold Gatherer.
Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke.
Okay.
Now, I don't trust anyone named Boris on like an instinctual level because it just seems like an evil name. Maybe that's just me profiling.
Hey, Boris the Goose from Balta was a decent fellow.
All right. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't trust anyone named Boris. I'm just going to be honest here.
Just on principle.
Just on principle, because they're usually bad guys. Now, do either of you guys know anything about like Aegon Targaryen the Fourth from Game of Thrones?
Was he the one that was called was he the unworthy one?
Yeah, he was the unworthy one.
He was the fat one, right?
Picture. They're
He
all
was the
named
fat one.
Same shit.
Okay, hold on. I can find it for you.
I just looked up a list of emperors, and that last one has a. Anyway,
What was that?
there's a list of emperors I found, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 down from Boris there. That lady has a nice moniker after her name.
Which one's that one?
Beatrice the Monumentally Cruel. I wonder if she was any good.
I'm sensing something might be wrong with this woman. Monumentally Cruel is one hell of a nickname.
I wonder how she got that title.
I don't know. I think because she was cruel.
Monumentally.
Now, why I'm saying that Aegon Targaryen IV is a good example for what kind of person Boris was. Boris was very keen on, abusing every single ounce of his power to do whatever he wanted.
As you
So, yeah.
do, especially in
you know,
Warhammer.
Yeah, so if he wanted someone to, be with him, they would be with him because he was the emperor and he could do whatever he wanted.
I said there'll be no smut here.
As bad as that is, he's also kind of funny because he did some really bad stuff and was also so like selfishly greedy that like if you gave him enough money, he could give you any title you wanted. Like if you were like, "Hey Boris, here's like 10K. Can you make me a lord?"
Sure thing.
Now, that's bad. But he would also sell relics and ancient treasures out of the palace's vaults.
Ooh, that's probably not a good thing.
Like, oh, this is a crown worn by Falk of Whistleland or Whistleland, or you want to call it. It's an ancient relic that's over 1,000 years old, and I'll give you like $20 for it.
Deal.
Sold. Now, that's also bad. But what's the funniest shit he did is he would literally rent out rooms in the Imperial Palace like it was a fucking hotel.
Better be some 5-star gourmet shit if I'm going to stay in a place like that.
I hope so. But here's where it's even funnier. The rooms that he would rent out were always the rooms of the emperors that he hated the most. Because like basically every emperor gets their own room in the palace. Like when you become the emperor, you don't just get like the emperor's room. You get like a special quarters built for you. And each one of these quarters is like a sacred place, basically. He would be selling out, like let's say I was Boris, and like Flubb was an emperor that had made a decision in the past that I didn't like, or like he was like an emperor from like 100 years ago that I just didn't like on principle for whatever reason. I would like loan out his room to be like used by people to sleep in his room.
Among other things.
Yes, and I think that's fucking hilarious. Like he's like just so petty and like so pathetic and almost like so evil.
So
Like,
it's
yeah,
like so I guess when you mentioned that, it's like the Imperial Palace is that like, so it's just like every time a new emperor is crowned, like they just build on and build on and build on and build on until like the palace itself is basically like its own small city.
Well, there's a palace in every single city, like every single one of the like every single province has its own like imperial palace, basically.
Ah.
Yeah. So like even though he's in like Midland, he might sell the rooms in like Reichland or like in all in like any one of the nearby provinces. Like if Westland had had its palace, he would sell it people there. It was literally just like, oh yeah, it's like one of my hotels, basically.
To make money.
Yes, to make money. Yep. Now
I'm now imagining him with the voice of Mr. Krabs, and I will not unhear that.
Oh god, that makes it perfect. Now, Boris is a bad guy, right?
He's not a bad guy. He just likes money.
Now, how do you think Boris met his end?
It says it right here, but I'm gonna let Gerald guess.
I'm pretty sure there was a massive revolt.
Flubb, what happened?
He died of the Black Death.
Oh. Okay, then.
Now, Gerald, who caused the Black Death?
Yes, Skaven.
So, what I'm trying to say here is the Skaven saved the Empire by killing its worst emperor.
Holy shit.
Now, let's see how much. Now, Flubb, who succeeds Boris, the Gold Gatherer?
Mandred II, also known as Mandred Skaven Slayer.
You're motherfucking right,
guy.
the Skaven Slayer.
Air horns.
Wonder what he does.
Well, given the fact that during Boris's rule, the Skaven invaded, which, for reference, the Skaven have the Under Empire, which I'm assuming, Flubb, you know of the Under Empire?
In Skaven Slayer, they basically just stay in Nuln, but they mention being sent from, like, reinforcements sent from other places through the Under Empire.
Yeah, basically, Skaven are everywhere. Like, they're literally everywhere. And they have, like, a massive, like, underground, like, highway that they've taken over from the dwarves that literally, and they have like fortresses under every single city. So during the Skaven invasion, every single Skaven that was below the surface rose to the surface and started like slaughtering everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And they started this invasion by unleashing the Black Plague onto people. So,
Glorious.
yes, it's just, of course, that's until the great Emperor Manslayer, or rather not Manslayer. Wow, Skaven Slayer.
Manslayer, eh?
Manslayer. He fought with the Skaven.
Fuck this! I'm on the winning side.
Oh.
Mandrick Skaven Slayer. I mentioned this before, but to go over it fast, he basically like rallied humanity, and one of the main things he did was incite like propaganda, which was basically any defeat against a Skaven was like denied, like reports were like burned or like destroyed, so no one would like know of the defeats, and only the victories would be recorded, as well as like setting up like the sewer watch, which was basically like a garrison force in the city sewers to keep Skaven from invading. But overall, Mandrick Skaven Slayer saved the Empire by uniting everyone and stopping the Skaven and hucking the Black Death at the Skaven.
That still gets me every time.
He gave the Skaven the Black Death. Oh yes, We make Black Death. We infect humanity. Wait, why am I coughing? Oh no!
Oh yeah, in a Skaven Slayer, the voice or the reader guy, I don't know what the hell he's called. He does Skaven voices really well.
Yes, I love Skaven voices. They're so fun.
He even does like the breathing in between phrases.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, here's something though. Given everything that Mandrick did for the Empire, how do you think history remembers him?
They don't.
Yeah, they don't.
No, they remember him, but they remember him as a fool and a madman who hunted rats. And I mean like regular
Oh
rats.
right, yeah, they gotta hide.
Oh,
They
yeah.
exist.
Darn. Well, he kind of
Because-
shot himself in the foot there.
Yeah, because like all like the true evidence of the Skaven was like destroyed. The only things they have to go off of is the victories. And so as far as everyone's concerned, he was basically like an emperor who was like stopping as far as history remembers the Skaven, like the Skaven invasion, it's literally just like the Black Plague and like an invasion of rats. And not even an invasion, but like there was just a lot of rats at the time. That's how history remembers the first Skaven invasion.
He really shot himself in the foot when he did that whole campaign.
Literally, like that's one of the worst parts about him is that he's one of the best emperors, and he's remembered as a fool and a madman and just a rat catcher.
Dumbass.
Now, the thing about Mandrick is history does remember him poorly, but for the time that he was alive, he was a great king and a great emperor until he died. And then a whole succession crisis happens again.
So Game of Thrones Light, Part 2. 12.
Yes. Except unlike the War of the Five Kings that happened in Game of Thrones, this one begins the Age of the Three Emperors. For
Three,
anyone,
you say?
yes, for anyone wondering, the Age of the Three Emperors is going to be the reboot or the remake of Warhammer Fantasy that's going to be coming out sometime soon.
Yeah, did GW ever actually establish like when the old world, quote unquote, is supposed to be out?
They
I read
didn't.
early 2024.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Okay then.
See, someone knows. So that would be the Age of the Three Emperors, which, for general reference, there was someone who was elected to become the emperor. However, I believe it was another woman from Ostland. I believe she wanted to be emperor instead. And so she basically started a uprising or rebellion, which began the Age of Two Emperors. However, because Midland can't do anything right, and they really want Ulrich back, they also threw in another emperor. Look, Midland is great, but like the people that come out of there just aren't that great of people.
The fact that they're still hanging
Mhm.
around and haven't become like a wasteland or a badland or a border prince area is just like they either are doing something very right that we're just not privy to, or they are just having the worst imaginable luck.
Well, it's funny you just say bad luck because actually the general who led the invasion of Loron Forest or Forest is simply known as the Unlucky. So, like history doesn't remember his name; they just remember him as the Unlucky. So when he invaded with like two other provinces, he got fucked up that badly that he was remembered as the Unlucky.
And he carried that curse over to Midland. Wow. Just wow.
But yeah. So, like I said, the Age of Three Emperors, it's very much I don't want to say a holy war, but it's kind of a holy war because basically one of the emperor, like whenever an emperor is chosen, they're very much viewed as like chosen by Ulrich or chosen by Sigmar rather. Like, oh, Sigmar chose you to be the emperor. We just like, we voted and you become chosen by Sigmar by becoming the emperor.
Wink, wink.
Now, yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Well, I mean, remember, you have to remember the theologists are fucking also having a vote in there. So, I mean, so this is where the Age of the Three Emperors happens. For anyone wondering, yes, this is where the old world's going to take place. For a timeline, though, the Age of Three Emperors actually outlives all three emperors that started it.
How does that work? I know I'm okay with
Yeah.
numbers, but I'm still trying to figure that out.
Because it looks like each of those provinces just kept electing new ones.
Yeah, each province was basically like, oh, this guy's dead. Okay, I'd like a new one. And naturally, there's shifting ties, there's changing of borders, and all that bullshit. But to sum up how long the Age of Three Emperors lasts, 600 fucking years.
Nice.
All right. That's a good
This
run
is
there.
literally a 600-year-long civil war.
Hey, that's even got Krieg beat by 100 years.
Kind of, yeah.
A
Dang.
lot less nukes.
I'm
though.
impressed.
I mean, the Skaven have nukes.
That they do.
That's literally how they found that's literally how they found the fucking underground highways. They fucking nuked their city and then fell into the underway. Oh gosh.
I am never not impressed with how ridiculous the Skaven are, and it's awesome.
Now, to very quickly sum up the Age of Three Emperors, though, it was a civil war that we are going to be covering next episode.
Ah.
Indeed, because we are beginning to run a little bit long, and I don't want Gerald to be forced to edit a 4-hour episode.
Thank you. Although I will ask one question. I will ask one question though. Although you can choose to save this for the next one. But so what is the state of the Empire in Age of Sigmar? Is it pretty much the same thing, or do you want to cover that later?
The Empire does not exist in Age of Sigmar. They are in Age of Sigmar, the Empire, like I said, is gone. They've basically been replaced with what are called the cities of Sigmar. And without going too deep into the cosmology, Age of Sigmar basically functions on 8 separate like universes that all coexist and like relate to one another, very similar to like the 9 realms of Norse mythology.
Okay.
That's the best way to put it in like as simple terms as possible. And the cities of Sigmar are basically like city states that are ruled by that basically inhabit the common people, and they're armed by and they're basically and the people that guard it and like fight for it are very common militia and nobles. The best way to put it is it's a fusion of Bretonia and the Empire, and they are very much just city states that conquer and invade the other like realms to like establish their own little forts, their own little expanding territory, and fight in the name of Sigmar against chaos.
Okay. All right. So, dear listeners, there's your little lip service to Age of Sigmar for those who are wondering.
Look, if I'm going to cover Age of Sigmar, I'm going to need to explain the end times, and I don't want to explain the end times just yet because look, I said it wasn't that bad, but like as I'm thinking about it, I'm starting to realize that I'm actually starting to hate it more and more and more as I think about it.
Maybe it was that bad.
I was like, it's one of the things where it's like, you know what, I don't have any connection because I wasn't like playing. I wasn't like fully invested in Warhammer Fantasy during the end times. But then like I remember Manfred exists, and then I remember so much, and then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I do hate the end times.
You've just been denying yourself.
Oh,
All right.
goodness.
Any further questions from my two listeners here? From either the Bretoni who wants to cut my head off with an axe, or the dwarf who is not drunk yet? Because apparently 3 barrels deep isn't enough to get drunk.
Oh, bitch, come on! I can go all night here.
So I'm
I don't
hearing is
think
we're
I
doing a
have-
part 2 right after this one ends. Or we're doing
I
part
don't
3
think
right after this one ends.
I'm gonna say I don't think I have any questions. Does our dear knight, the Honorable Sir Flubb, have anything to add?
I'm just wondering with the reboot, if it's a civil war, like what are the other factions doing, like on the tabletop wise? Does Bretonia just come over and say, "Hey, fuckers, fuck you"? And
Well, Bretonia has a very like on and off relationship with the Empire. Like if it wasn't obvious enough, like the Empire and Bretonia very clearly are like they're very much like bitter exes, like that's separated very obviously. Where like on a number of occasions, Bretonia has tried to invade the Empire, and the Empire tries to invade Bretonia. I believe in the present era, like in the year 2500, whatever the fuck the time the present era is of Warhammer Fantasy, Bretonia tried to invade during a succession crisis where the Empire didn't have an emperor for a few years.
Well, good time as any.
Yeah, so they're like I said, they're very much on like sometimes we're like they're friends when it comes to like outside threats, like if the orcs ever invade or chaos ever invades or anything else.
yeah, because they
They're-
were buddies during. They both went down to Araby and just were like, "Fuck these people."
when they went and fought Jafar.
Yeah, they literally just tore like as a unit. They just tore that shit up, and then they were like, "All right, let's go back home."
Let's go back home and then we'll become rivals and fight each other again.
As you do.
Yeah, no, they are very much like they're allies of convenience, but they will be opportunistic and fight each other, which is why I'm assuming during the old world, rather when the old world reboots, because we've seen the map. The map for the old world has been released, so we've seen the Empire, which has been divided into like 3 different quadrants basically, and each one is ruled by one of those 3 like emperor factions. But then the Bretonia, they are basically, I think they have 13. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to
they
like
had
look again.
they had a pretty
So
good
was that-
amount of dukedoms on the map.
Yeah, and I'm assuming each one of those dukedoms is going to be their own like they're either gonna be fighting each other or we're trying to capitalize on the civil war in the Empire. But to my knowledge, the old world reboot is going to be very limited in that the only factions that are going to be involved will be Bretonia, the Tomb Kings, the Empire. I think the dwarves are going to be involved, but I can't say for certain because I know that they're going to keep it very limited. It's going to be very similar to the Horus Heresy, where like the armies involved are going to be very limited. So like similar to how the Horus Heresy only has like Space Marines and Mechanicus. I'm assuming this one will only have like Bretonia, the Empire, the Tomb Kings, and like maybe one other one.
I thought Kislev was getting models, or maybe they're just getting rules.
I mean, if Kislev gets models, I know what army I'm fucking playing because I want to see Elsa riding on top of a polar bear.
Yeah, and some of them are legacy, like the Lizardmen aren't getting models, but they're getting rules.
That's
You
interesting.
just have some old ones lying around, I guess.
I was gonna say, so how would that work? Like, if you just happen to have like the OG Lizardman models, are you allowed to use that, or?
Well, I'm assuming it will be like Legacy, where like it is in 40K, where if you have an outdated model, you can still use them and here are the rules for them, but like they're not going to be updated or they're not going to like be balanced or anything. That's what I'm assuming.
Okay.
I'm more excited for like narrative games though, because like I am imagining like some fun like outcomes where you could have like let's say you play Lizardman and I play Beast and I play Kislev. Well, what kind of story could we play? Because I'm always like a narrative kind of guy, especially when it comes to 40K games. I try to make the games as like narratively succinct as possible. It's like, oh, why would the Lizardmen be fighting Kislev? Well, maybe because they didn't like to place those fucking mountains, so they're gonna move them like 5 feet to the side.
Now, see, I've never
I'm
played a
joking, but
single.
actually not because they have done that.
I've never played a single game of the tabletop, but I feel like that's like the kind of game I'd actually like to play if I ever get around to it. Once I learn
Yeah, I've never
10th
played
edition
either,
or
but
anything like that. Because right now
seems
all
like
I'm
the
doing is just
stories would
painting
be
minis
funner.
for diorama pieces and stuff, and just writing listener lore crap, and
Sorry, what were you saying, Flubb?
Oh, I was just agreeing with him. Like, I've never played the tabletop either, but I feel like the stories would be more fun and create stuff you could talk about afterwards. Like, man, I can't believe this. Can't believe the lizardmen moved those fucking mountains over to the side.
Well, speaking
mean-
of story, Ray, isn't there a certain goal that you had in mind for us in the future?
Which one? We have several goals.
Well, let's start with the story one. I think tabletop story thing. I don't know. It's your idea.
Tabletop story. Do you mean our story, or you mean the potential adventure and dice story that I want to do eventually?
That one, yeah, that one.
Okay, so here's the announcement. I want to do D&D because I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I also love Warhammer. So the goal is I want to eventually set up a fucking Dungeons and Dragons in the Warhammer fantasy setting. Now, if you want to make this happen, you guys can support us on Patreon because eventually we're gonna fucking get around to this because Dungeons and Dragons is fucking awesome. And to my knowledge, Gerald has never played, so we need to fucking pop his cherry and get him rolling some D20s.
My body is ready.
Now-
Speaking of, that's going to roll into our next announcement. Our Patreon is actually up now. So if you follow the link in the description, that'll take you straight to our Patreon page. You can donate as little as $1 per month, and that will invite you to our lovely little Discord that we're trying to build up. This is a nice little community of like-minded folks so we can all just talk about Warhammer Fantasy and other grimdark settings. However, you can also join I think we have like a $5 and a $10 tier for some extra little perks. You can just read the descriptions of what you get below, which also leads into our next announcement. We have a couple of shout outs we need to give, Ray.
Do we? I don't know. I
Yes.
mean, I think we need to shout out a knight and I think a noble. But
Yes.
No, you don't have to talk about the noble.
I sense a little bit of hostility here.
well, I mean the noble.
He's
the
one of those
noble out of
Ulfric
us will support well, see, you wanna shout out the noble then, and I'll shout out the knight.
I'll shout out the noble first, so that way the knight can feel better about being saved best for last. How about that? Okay, we would like to thank the wonderful noble Slappy for his donation to Patreon. So Slappy, here is your shout out, my man. You keep doing you and being awesome.
Yes, and of course our lovely knight over here who who despises Slappy. Any words you like to give to your political rival from the Empire?
I mean, just hang in there, keep taking that knot, buddy.
Oh my fucking god! Actually, here's another little benefit, a little bonus to our Discord, a little incentivization. Even if you guys only donate $1, you guys will join our Patreon. But if you do join our Patreon, you guys will gain access to a selection of faction flares that we have set up. So, for example, our lovely knight here, Slappy, he is obviously a Bretonian man. So when he
Slappy,
joins,
whoa.
Slappy, sorry. I'm
My
getting my
$5 is going right back in my
arguments out here.
pocket.
Sorry, a lovely man, Flubb here. He's a Bretonian man through and through. So naturally, he has gotten the Bretonian flair, which has earned him or rather, he's added the what is it called? The Demont.
I don't know.
I don't
That's
know
all
what
what
they
all
call
the
it.
knight is. I think you don't get a last name. You just get to be known where you're from. So
the great de Montfort. So
no, it's French. You got to take all the T's off. The Montfort.
de Montfort, and then you had to add like 100 more letters because that's how you spell everything in French.
Yeah, but you don't pronounce any of them.
Exactly. It's like the word Q. It's spelled with like 6 letters, but you only say the first letter. Q. Ray,
He died. He's dead.
Dang it, I think the bartender gave him a little bit too much ale there.
I think it was me. I killed him.
Oh no.
I'm alive. I'm alive. Don't worry.
Okay.
I live, bitch.
Oh. Any other announcements
I
you
fell
want to
into the
give
table
before?
because apparently my caffeine was spiked with something very green and sparkly.
Oh no, this shit again. Okay, I need to call working on steroids again for our freedom impaired Skaven friends. But any other announcements, Ray, that you want to go over? Because I think I covered everything we wanted to talk about.
Not so much a announcement, but more just a shout out to the Discord. I am loving the race wars going on. I'm saying that jokingly. I'm saying that jokingly. There's not a
We do
race
not
war
con-
going on.
we
There's
do
just a
not
very
condone-
strong nationalistic view going on between the dwarves, the Empire, and the Bretonians.
Yeah, I may or may not have a list of slurs.
Yes, I do
I'm just
agree with
laughing.
Rage.
I'll go into Discord. I am on Discord fairly often. So if you guys join the Discord, you guys can obviously talk to either one of us because we're on fairly consistently.
We're all
But like I'll
consistency.
join in and I'll just see like these guys just throwing like insults at each other and making fun of each other. I think one of the funniest ones was I think it was Astro calling Flubb a coward for not joining for being a Bretonian and abandoning Blackfire Pass.
Yes. Join our Discord and you can join and you too can join in on these wonderful fantasy insults. Just remember to keep these insults fictional, please.
Yes. And of course you can see my wonderful pictures that I post that are about 4 pixels.
And
Yeah.
I forgot one more thing. We if you right now we are currently on every other week schedule for episodes, but if tell your friends and everything about us if you want to support the show. We are hoping to set some kind of a goal. I don't know what our amount is yet, but we're going to try, and if we reach a certain goal, we're going to try and do weekly episodes. So if that's what you want, tell your friends about us and just come in and help us out.
Yes, any amount is appreciated.
Absolutely. Be as generous as your means allow.
Indeed. Although I'm just happy to see the download number go up and see the amount of 5-star ratings we're getting. Like it's only a few.
Honestly,
it's only a few
many,
ratings, but
how many downloads you guys up to?
we've got quite a few. Like I'm like genuinely floored that we've gotten the kind of reception that we have in like the first 2 weeks. Like I was genuinely not expecting this kind of turnout, and I'm really happy for it.
yes, in fact, I believe as of today, I think our last episode, which was released. For anyone wondering, we record every week, but we release episodes by week every 2 weeks. So we actually have like some episodes saved up. So again, if you want to support us. You get to see the episodes either in advance or you can help us release episodes weekly. But the most recent episode that has been posted was, I believe, Adored, Admired, Abolished, and A Burned Corpse, which I'm very proud of as a title. That is actually our most popular episode in terms of downloads. In just the first day, in the first 2 days that it's been out, we've gotten 10 downloads of it alone.
Within the
Which
first
isn't
day?
a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
If I
But
listen
given
to it early, does that show?
If you listen to it early, it will not show because that is a Patreon bonus and not a Spotify or Google
Well, then I
podcast
guess-
one.
Well, then that's
Yeah.
actually 11, buddy.
Oh dang. Impressive. And like again, us saying 11 doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but given the fact the episode's only been out for 2 days, and the fact that we are at this moment a relatively small podcast, I say relatively, we are in a pathetically small podcast at the moment.
Oh yeah.
Getting 11 downloads in just 2 days is a godsend.
Honestly.
A Sigmar send, rather.
A Sigmar send, yes.
I think you mean the Lady of the Lake.
Yes. Let's. I mean, As an elf, I support the Lady of the Lake. It's funny because Flubb doesn't get the joke yet.
You told me to stop reading.
Well,
I don't know my own culture.
Well, about your Bretonian jokes there, Ray. The condition that he and I made upon my return was instead of axing my head off, the only thing he hates more than dwarves is elves. So if you can just hand me your loot here, and you might want to make for the door right about now.
Ah!
Give me your tree.
Well, those two are off. I think he's going to be okay. Maybe. Possibly.